Rocking Chair Session. With Elisa Di Battista and Maria Teresa Barber.
Hello everyone,
and welcome to RCS Rocking Chair Sessions with Volume 36, featuring artist Patricia
Schnall
Gutierrez.
We did it
together.
Hi Patricia.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Bake House.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you. We're so excited.
Thanks.
It's returning to the Bake House.
It's good. Walking through those hallways, kind of like a dream.
Right. And you were not far from this studio.
Nope.
In studio, what is it? 8?
Oh my gosh, I think it's 12.
Or 12.
I think it's 12.
12.
But I'm not 100% sure because
somewhere around that number, because 10 is opposite. Yeah.
10, 11, 12. I think it might be 12.
And you've been at the Bake House for how many years? Do you know?
I was here for, I think, 7 years.
Nice.
Wow.
Shortly after I came down to Miami, I came in here on the recommendation from an art dealer. And he said, go check it out and see if they have really great studios over there. And I ended up here and I loved it. I had just gotten a studio, I think it was over on 20th, and it was very scary at that time. This was 2008, 2007, 2008. It was very scary over there. And I would not go there at night. So I looked at this place. It was a little bit more money, and I thought, I think I can swing it. And it was fantastic. Great. Well, you know that studio. It's full of light.
Beautiful.
And it's secluded a little in the corner. So it was great.
Here, parking lot here at night for privacy, and the gate.
The gates were up already?
The gates were up. It was only air conditioned on this side of the building. So I made sure to get this side because it was hot as hell over there. But they put the air conditioning in, I think, that same year over there. So then a lot more people started coming because only the real diehards were over there that could handle the heat.
Yeah.
And there were some diehards, and there's been a lot of people that have come through this building. But I remember going over there, and they'd be sweating, and I said, "Oh God, I don't know how you can take it over here." But that didn't last long. And then all of a sudden, it was air conditioned. They got a big grant from somebody somewhere, and then loads more people started coming in because it was much more inviting to come in. So.
And you mentioned you ventured out here in 2008. Where did you originally hail from in the States that you decided to come down to Miami?
Well, I'm a New York Stater. I don't know how to say that any other way. I was born in Buffalo, but my whole family's from the Bronx.
Okay.
So I moved back to New York in 1980, I want to say, somewhere around there with a little baby. I was just married, and I knew I didn't want to stay in Buffalo. And we moved to New York and then lived there for a few years. And then we moved to the other side of the Hudson, and I raised 3 kids over there on the other side of the Hudson in the good school district. But we still worked, my husband and I both worked a lot in New York. So I had some galleries there and different things that I was doing in New York, but we were living in New Jersey. That's where I lived there for many years. And then as soon as my youngest child graduated high school, because I was there for the schools, as soon as she graduated, I said, it's time for me to go. So we wanted to go back to New York, and we really couldn't afford the type of lifestyle that we were looking for. We looked all over Manhattan, and then we went to the Bronx, and then we were in Brooklyn, and we were like, oh my God, it's so expensive. 20 years passed. Yeah. It was so much money. Even though we could have made a considerable amount of money on the house, it didn't equal out. Mm-hmm. So my husband had family down here, so we ended up coming to Miami, and I thought, there was something cooking down here. It was really at that very, very beginning when the arts scene sort of started to
pick up,
bubble here. And I felt there was something going on. It was before most things were anywhere. I mean, you couldn't walk down 2nd Ave. It was dangerous after dusk. But it changed very quickly after that. So it was a good move. I love it here. I still love it here.
And you just recently moved up to Hollywood, right?
And that
You
was
left.
a whole, right. So I left the bakehouse, and then I ended up at the Fountainhead, which was another really awesome experience. I met very, very cool artists there, and Catherine and Dan Mikesell were fabulous, and it was this it was a very different vibe going on there. You know, I had spent a long time here, and then I went there, and then it got very congested around here. We were living just a few blocks east of here in Midtown, and it was just congested. I don't know how to describe it any other way. It was getting a little too young for the two of us at that point, and it was losing the charm that we liked when we moved in. Mm-hmm. It was getting a little too superficial, I want to say, or something, and
lots of construction.
A lot of construction. We lost our view. We had this beautiful view of the water, and then this whole wall of high rises went up. So it was really my husband. It was George's idea. He was like, I can't take it anymore. So I was in the middle of this museum show, and he was bugging the hell out of me, and I was just like, okay, I'll look for something. And I literally looked for about 2 weeks, found a place, and we bought it.
Amazing.
Up in Hollywood, in the little downtown area of Hollywood, which
Great.
I always say it could be 1962. It still has that old Florida charm to it.
Sweet.
And so we've ended up there. Yeah. And I've got this amazing studio there now too. So.
I saw pictures, and you have them on your website too, of the studio.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God.
It's pretty
and it's really
amazing.
close to the Art and Culture Center also, right?
It's close, so I've gotten a little, I mean, I knew them over there, I knew Joy, and I've gotten to know Laura a little bit. But since I lived there, I mean, it's really just been recently, I've gotten to know them more, and it's like our cultural hub, sort of that area, and my studio's within walking distance, as is my apartment. So that happened. It was like somebody was sprinkling fairy dust on me. You know, George and I were coming back. He was still working here at the bakehouse. He was doing the handyman stuff. We were commuting back and forth, and it was taking us anywhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 60 minutes to get back and forth.
That. Yeah.
And I said, you know, this is for the birds.
Enough.
I mean, I don't, you know, at this stage of my life, I don't want to be stuck in traffic. So I said, you know, maybe I'll look around for a studio. And I found one in a day.
Nice.
My own warehouse.
That's incredible.
And well, anybody can find a warehouse and pay a lot of money for it. I found a cheap warehouse. That was the most amazing thing. Somebody just sprinkled this fairy dust and said, "This woman needs a good studio." and I just, you know,
and it's huge.
It's huge.
Big. It's like, I mean, you had a nice size studio at Fountainhead too.
But you still work like large scale, and you had to like be very tight knit with your stuff and pack it all in very New York instead of being able to work with space.
It's just, it's a dream come true. It seriously is. I mean, I've had bigger studios, smaller studios over the years. This is the biggest studio on the first floor with 2 garage doors. And
it's just so great for like taking, transporting, and
it's just, I mean, I'm isolated, but the cool thing is that my landlord wants, you know, I sort of planted this seed in his head, and I said, you know, it would be really cool, you know, you invite the artists, you know, property values go up. So that's what, if you guys know anybody, I mean, there's a studio right across this little alleyway from me. It's 1,800 square feet, $1,200 a month.
Oh, wow.
It can be divided up. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So he's sort of, I mean, I've got the word out there, you know, and I just want to get a whole art community up there, because at the end of the day, what's happening in Miami is just getting too expensive here. That was the reason I left here. Yeah. It was too expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, prices are going up for sure.
And it's been going up since then, you know, so it's been... I couldn't justify
that price anymore, you know, unless I had something that was... well, plus, you know, I had my time here. You know, 7 years in one place is a long time.
It's good to move on then, right?
It's like,
I think so. Yeah. You know, I have somehow in my life I find that things happen every 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, really, can you talk about that? Because 7 is my favorite number. I was born on a 7, so please.
You know, it has just happened in my life that I've had many different jobs in my life other than just making art. I've always made art, but you know, it doesn't pay the bills always. So I owned a gallery for 7 years. I taught for 7 years. I worked in a furniture store for 7. I've done all these things, and they were just 7 years after. And something happens after 7 years, and I get very itchy and restless, and I just feel as if I need to just move on. I don't know what the heck that's all about, but and I'm not conscious always. As a matter of fact, when I had the gallery, 7 years was just about the time, and it wasn't going the way it should be going. I had a business part. I mean, I had started this with a bunch of artists, and it somehow morphed into this commercial gallery, which was very successful. I mean, it was a wonderful gallery, but the artists one by one left because, you know, artists don't really want to. It wasn't something that we really were supposed to do. So I had a little bit more of a business mind than they did, and I kept it. But I swear I kept it 6 months too long, and that was 7 years, 6 months. And then right after that I got rid of that gallery right after 9/11, and it was it was in New York, and I said, you know, there was a dark cloud almost literally over New York, and I said, I don't know if it was me or if it was the atmosphere or it was just everything, but it was a sad time. So I said, I think this is the time to exit.
Yeah.
And I left that business. So. But yeah, I don't know what that means.
With the 7.
You were at the talk at the Art and Culture Center where this woman from New York came to talk.
Yes.
And she was saying the same thing, right? That artists who are taking on a gallery and artist-run space, they can do it for, what did she say, 2 years?
She said 2.
She said 2 years, right?
She said 2, and I said, wow, 2 years is just getting started.
You did it for much longer than that. And then kind of like they want to do what they want to come back to their art practice, or they want to do that was really interesting for me. And it was also like something that she said, you know, she was actually successful, you know. You think that you would stop it because you're not successful or you just run out of money or something, but it was not the case with you or with her, right?
I wasn't making a killing at the business or anything, but it's interesting when artists of course can curate shows in a gallery because we can curate
ourselves.
It's just taking, you know, I would just, first of all, I love art, and I would get these amazing artists in, and I would fall in love with their work and them and everything else, and then we'd put it on the walls, and we'd put it back and forth, and it was like an installation. Mm-hmm. We would just install the work the way it looked the best, and it was so satisfying. As a matter of fact, just recently, the woman who was my kind of partner in crime over there, the gallery went, and there weren't any bad feelings, but there was this strange detachment that happened. And we did lose touch over the years, and just recently we've reconnected, and it's very fun because, you know, she's out there we're in a different place in our lives now, and she's also an artist, so she's a little older than I am. She's actually going out doing all these residencies, and it's fun we have these amazing memories together in this gallery business that I wouldn't give it up for the world. It was an amazing experience. That really, really was. And anything that I did in the art business world, which I did, you know, with the teaching in the galleries and the different types of things, I wouldn't have given any of them up because it was such somehow I became immersed in other people's work.
Yes.
And that's something that's very special that, I mean, now when I think about it, I'm so, you know, into my own stuff. It's almost embarrassing, you know, like I work alone. I'm very self-centered in my work, and I get out there once in a while, but it really is this very special feeling to be able to get into other people's work and appreciate it and love it. It's a different experience, and I guess it's sort of like collaboration a little bit, but it's even just taking myself out of the whole picture and getting into other people's work, which is fun.
Yeah, but what I also think for you as an artist in your career now, it is also like very important to have all this background from the other side, right? From the side of the gallery. I mean, I only worked in a commercial gallery in San Francisco for like I made it 3 months, but it's kind of like you get another perspective, you know. If you work with a gallery now, it's like you understand what they're going through, you know, and you understand the struggle. Or we also were. I know you were also at a fair right now during our Basel, right? We had a booth at Pinta together, 15 women were exhibiting together, and we were sitting the booth, you know, and talking to people, and
it's a lot of work.
And that's I think that is really important to experience that as an artist too, because otherwise you're like maybe at the end of the week, my gallery didn't sell anything, or so, you know, they're not kind of like doing a great job or something. But if you are standing there, you know, and you try to do that and try to work,
it's
then
very behavioral,
you get a little bit more grateful or modest.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's
you don't understand anything until you experience.
Until you do it,
really,
right?
You have to really just do it.
I think that's that is something where I'm grateful for, you know, for these experiences that are maybe not always what I really want to do, but still I feel like I learn a lot, right, when you're deep into like another world like this.
I definitely, I mean, I did it for so long, and and I worked in galleries too. I started working in galleries out of college. And then when I first came to Miami, I was working I didn't know that was what I knew how to do.
Oh, really?
So it's interesting. It's interesting when, you know, and then I backed up, and then I just became an artist again. And there's this huge division between gallerist, curator, artist, and I have worn all of those hats, and it's very interesting to me to see how people play out those roles when we're all equal pieces to this puzzle, but somehow people's egos sometimes let them get the best of things, and they can't put themselves into perspective. That's one thing that I really feel as if I understand a lot more than maybe some other people. And I think, you know, particularly as an artist, you know, it's like, oh, I'm just this peon of an artist now. I mean, there's a billion of us, if not more or something. I mean, I don't even know. But it's the artist relationship with the curator, and the artist relationship with the gallerist, and with the museum. You know, I have this very unusual perspective that we are all equal pieces. And sometimes that doesn't always suit people's egos. So it gets me into funny predicaments occasionally. You know, I mean, it depends on where you are and whose ego is going nuts. But when you understand all those pieces and you've lived them all, it's I don't know how to say it nicely, but some people's egos let them get carried away with their positions. And that was part of the talk that we had at the Art and Culture Center, because I can remember, you know, when I had the gallery was going well, and people would, I mean, in different places that I'd be, and they'd come up to me and say, "Oh, Patricia, you know, oh, you want the gallery? I love that gallery. I love this," you know. And I can remember thinking, "Oh, this is probably another artist."
Trying to get me to
get into
show
the
his
gallery,
work.
you know, and it's true. I mean, I used to look at work by artists, but you have to put yourself in perspective, you know, and it's and you can let it. I can remember thinking, "Oh, it feels kind of good. Everybody knows me, and they think I'm such, you know, I'm so important here." Well, you got to just, you know, leave that at the door when you leave in the morning, because it's you get a false sense of what's going on in the world, and once that title is gone, you will very soon find out that it's not a validation for anything. Yeah. It's really ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I see it happening with a lot of different people, and I go, "Oh, poor thing, you know, I hope he gets over this soon," or. But it's the world. That's the way the world goes.
I think it's so interesting that in the artist's life, you're like always dealing with these rejection letters, or like with the things you get in usually are not as good as you want them to be, and then the things that you don't get in, you kind of struggle with not being good enough, right. and on the side of the gallerist, it's kind of like you have all those people that want to come in, but you have to select. It's kind of like it's not.
Well, you know what, and they're
way,
working on a whole different picture.
Yeah,
they're competing with each other.
Yeah.
And they're in a whole different thing. Oh my gosh! And the curators, they're all competing with each other. So that it's what's the trend and what's this and where do we go?
What's
it's
the
like,
next
please
big
give me a
thing,
break.
blah, blah, blah.
I mean, it's I hate. I don't want to seem like a know-it-all, but I've got my own experience of all these things, and it's. You just do the best you can.
Yeah.
You do the best you can, and as far as the galleries, they're doing the best. If you can find a gallery, and this has been I'm certainly not famous, not by any means, but I've worked with a lot of galleries, and some of them are great, some of them are not, some of them you have a great relationship with, but it doesn't work out anyway. Mm-hmm. You just basically, I think that the best thing is to just stay true to what you believe in, and just surround yourself by good people. Mm-hmm. If you really want to, I guess, get famous and, be the shit kind of thing, like play the game. I mean, if that's what's important to you and that's really what you're going after, then go after that. But otherwise, just, you do your thing, you try to promote yourself a little, you find some nice gallery to represent you, and I mean, sometimes there is that little sticky thing where a better gallery asks you're in this gallery, and then you really kind of want to be in that gallery. You have to weigh things out, and at the end of the day, you just want to be happy, and do what you can do, and feed yourself, and have great friends, and do your thing. Mm-hmm. It's there's. We're all, sometimes it's all of us, we're reaching for this fame or something, and I don't know if it's all what it's made out to be. Mm-hmm. I feel rich, I feel successful in doing what I'm doing, and I just need to be true to myself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a thread we've spoken with a few artists, like how do you measure success? What is a successful artwork to you? Or what does it mean to be a successful artist? And I think a lot of people towards the end is like being happy with what you're making in the studio, being happy with yourself, and finding that balance.
I mean, I think it's probably true with a lot of artists. I'm my toughest critic.
Yeah.
If other people don't like it, I mean, I can remember early in my career, I actually used to ask and hire museum people to come in and just critique the work. I was just looking for, I don't know, it's like I was looking for a beating or something. I don't know. But I always thought that critiques were really, really important from people that I really respected. But then someone did say to me, maybe about 10 years ago, and she was a pretty big curator, and she said to me, I don't know what your work looks like yet, but I just want to warn you. Whatever it is that I see, you have to keep in mind it's only my opinion. You may respect my opinion, but it's still only my opinion. And somebody else that you may respect just as much may have a different opinion. So just remember that when I walk through the door. And it was amazing that she said that.
Yeah, it's really
because
nice.
It really is true. And I always remember there was one artist that came into the gallery one time, and she was doing. It was a narrative kind of a style. It was very unusual kind of thing, and it wasn't something that I normally showed in the gallery. So she really was barking up the wrong tree. She was in the wrong gallery looking for, asking if I would represent her. And it wasn't like anything else that we had shown in there. And I looked at it and I thought, what the heck is she doing? She's a truck. I'm looking at this thing. I can't tell you how many times I have thought back at that woman. And I wasn't nasty to her or anything. I just didn't, I said, I don't think it's a good fit with the gallery. I can't tell you how many times I've rethought that piece that she showed me and thought, wow, that was actually a really good piece.
if you're out there, woman with a truck, Patricia says that was a really good piece. You never know. She might listen. It was a really good piece. Do not be deterred.
It was a really good piece.
Keep on
and
making.
I kind of just, you were
wearing a different hat. I mean,
It just wasn't the right time or the right place. It was a beautiful, she had done this series of, it was so unusual. They were trucks and things. But I remember thinking, what the heck is she doing? But they were done so uniquely, and I have thought back on that many times, that sometimes it's the wrong place, the wrong time.
Oh, I hope we reconnect you. I'm going to put #drawn trucks or something on it. Let's find this
I don't
woman.
even remember her name. I have no idea who she is. But it was back in Piermont, New York.
Okay.
And if she ever hears this, maybe she'll say, oh, yeah, I remember her.
Oh. Well, let's go back into it. I'm curious.
In the gallery, and she was...
because I know visiting your studio, when I had the opportunity, I should say, before you moved out of the Fountainhead, you have you do mixed media. You don't just draw. You have like collage, and then you have kind of like installation, performance.
Sound.
So we always like to ask, inquire, is that one side more than the other? Like, do you get it from your maternal or paternal side? When did you start to dabble? What did you dabble with? If you could take us back.
Well, I was trained as they say in the old days, a painter. I was trained as a painter. That's what I did through school. Drawing and painting was my thing. That's, back in the 70s, you had to pick something. You were a photographer, you were a painter, you were a sculptor. It was always these very definitive places, little boxes that you fit into. So, and you really didn't usually go too far away from that. I mean, you tried, the whole thing was, God, I remember it was like, just do 1 million paintings, and they're all variations on the same theme. And they all kind of have to look alike. They're all about the same size, you're using the same color palette. It was so fucking boring. So when I actually, there was a lot going on in my life. Remember, I had 3 kids too. So and I had to work. So there was a lot going on in between all this artwork. When I moved down here, my kids had grown up, and I had a lot more time. I came down here very incognito. No one knew anything about me. And I just wanted to play it for that, just to see what it was like. Nobody knew anything about me. So I said, let's just see how that goes. So I said, I always wanted to do work with some other media. I was dying to do installation work. And by that time, now we're, early 2000s, there was an awful lot of that out there at that point. I just didn't know where to begin. And I started that in here. And I just started to play. I just started playing with a lot of different things. And the work always revolved around, it was always somewhat autobiographical, because I knew my life more than anything else.
Well, it's a story you can tell, yeah.
And that was my story. And, as a woman, particularly because I was torn for a lot of my life between showing and working in my artwork and raising my children and doing a good job at that. So a lot of the work is a reflection of that, because it was this juggling act that I did for many years. And I said, I can't be the only woman out there trying to do this. It was really, really hard. And you don't get, number one, you don't get the respect once I started having children, it was like, I had my first really big one-woman show, and I was pregnant out to here. And then after that, I remember I sold a couple of pieces, and then it felt like my career just fell into a ravine. It was horrible. It was horrible. And I didn't know what to make of it. So I said, well, I guess I'll just be a housewife. I don't know, and I'll just dabble. I'll do my artwork. And it was really difficult for me. Really, really difficult, until finally the 3 kids got old enough, and I had a little bit more time, and I could devote more time to my work. And then everything started to turn around again, and it was I went through about, oh my God, at least 10 years there where and I needed deep therapy there for a while. I remember going to a therapist, she said, honey, you just need to make some artwork. You'll be fine. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so depressed.
That's what he told you? He already knew? Georgia's like, you just have to get there and get a brush and some paint. Like, he knew what the antidote was.
Yeah.
It's I think there's something, I don't know what it is. My family has always looked at me and said, you have some kind of a strange drive that you need to make artwork.
You're an artist.
And
That's not strange.
I can't give it up. I can't not make it. I can't not do it, which is a beautiful thing. The older you get, it's not like you have to retire or anything. You just keep doing it. You just keep making artwork as long as my hands work and I can see,
I think you struck on a chord, though, because I think that's a concern a lot of female artists have, is whether or not you have the children, because how will that impact your career? How will you be able to work? Will you not be able to work? How will you be perceived? We were excited to have Sarah visit us last week. Sarah MK with baby Stella, and we're like, you're gonna keep on making. We're sure of it. I feel like this generation, at least I'm hoping, will be more supportive of just being an artist, no matter what that looks like.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, let's hope so. Well, the work that I did, I don't know if you're familiar with the work I do with RPM Project, but there are three of us. There's Rhonda Matrani and Marina Font and myself, and we do very large installation work. And it's all revolved around that. It's all revolved around motherhood.
Yes.
And women and being artists and trying to make that all work.
Could you tell us how the three of you came together and the idea just spun about and you got started? Because you did a really huge installation not too long ago.
In the museum.
Yeah, in the museum.
Yeah. That was, we're here, we're three women and we each have three kids. So this is a funny three going around in there. I was working on a funny project. It wasn't funny, I guess. It was in here and it was called the Package Project. I don't know if you heard about this or anything, but I was playing around with these packages and I thought, there's just something very female about it. It was kind of reminiscent of either folding diapers or folding laundry or folding. And I started inviting all of these women to come to my studio. And there was this wonderful process. I lined everybody up. It was in that studio right there. I lined everybody up in 3 or 4 long tables. And we'd go through this assembly line of making very methodical packages. And then inside the packages we would put little notes that would never be seen about something. And then, I'm getting to how I met Marina. I saw her work, I think, at Dina Matrani Gallery. And I thought, oh my God, this is somebody I need to know. The work was fabulous. And it was all about everything that I was talking about women. So somehow, I told her about the Package Project, and she came and started making these packages. And that was the beginning of something. And then there were other ideas and things started flowing, just one thing led to another. And then there was something going on at the Lotus House about women. And I said, this is a perfect venue for us. This is what we do. And we needed a third person. She said, I know. She's amazing. I know who it is. Rhonda Matrani, videographer. And we really brought all of our talents together, and we work very, very well as a team. We do. I'm very proud of the work that we do, really. And it's a very important message that I think that we're getting out there.
It is.
So.
And you've been collaborating for years now, right?
Since 2009.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at that.
So we take, like right now we're in a little bit of a break because we all work independently.
Yeah.
Rhonda just made her first very big short film, which is going out there. Marina, of course, is doing her own thing, and I'm always doing my own thing. But then, we had this amazing work, and then it's like, I think we need to get together again. Or we get an opportunity. Somebody will call. Like the Boca Museum actually just called and said, we know your work and we'd like to have a show.
Oh, that's great.
And I thought, well, that's cool, So I called him up and said, hey, guess what? We've got some work to do. We've got an opportunity here.
And that was an incredible show. Can you tell us a little bit how that all came together?
The large installations.
The first piece that we did was actually the house inside my head, and that's what we decided to call the title of the show. And that was the piece that we originally did for Lotus House, and it was walking into this, it was this multimedia thing. We built the whole house. And, you know, this long flowing hair coming. I mean, if you can, just the three of us putting everything that we had, that we could possibly add to this individually, making it all one piece. And then the video, oh my God. So we're all learning all of these other ways of making art from each other. So that was the main piece. And we brought that in. A year or two after that, I guess we did Anne Marie Was Here, which was based on an Anne Marie Slaughter article that I had read in the Atlantic, and which is where a lot of these ideas come from. You just read something, and like how we all get ideas.
Yeah,
you look at the floor, you get an idea. You know, like I read an article, and I call up Rhonda Marina and say, we need to talk about this, because this is something really, really important. This woman's got her dream job, and she just quit because she had to go home and take care of her son.
Oh my God.
It was something, and you know, of course, that thing went wild. So we did that, and that was so much fun because we recruited all of these women who were on these monitors in back of the chairs.
And that was a dinner table, right? Was that a dinner table?
A dinner table, right. And we had, you know, the whole thing, we had dressed up each of the chairs, so they had this persona of the stay-at-home mom, the professional mom, the ones that were juggling, you know, and everybody had their part. And then each chair had a monitor. And these women that we filmed, it was very funny. We just sat them at a little table like this, and we gave them a cup and saucer and said, just make believe you're at, you know, a luncheon with some other women. And, you know, we're going to ask you a couple questions, but we just want you to kind of go off and start talking about yourself and what it's, you know, your decisions that you made. And the funny thing is, when we put them all, we edited it all, but we put them all together. These monitors were talking as it, you know, they were looking from side. You thought they were all talking to each other. So it came out very cool. And then we asked the public to come in, and there was an iPad there, and they could add to that. So then, you know, we're on a roll. So we have a couple of good installations, and then we made a short film, which was, we were very, very lucky to get an old house right here in Wynwood. And we just did our installations in the house. We just tore the rooms apart and did huge and filmed these in the film in the rooms. Then we did some of the film at the beach. It was, the gist of the whole thing was, it was this woman who was sort of looking for happiness in all the wrong places. She was, you know, she was buying things, and she had the big, beautiful house and all this kind of. We had a blast. It was a lot of work, but we absolutely had a blast making this film. We had fellows from New World, the symphony, the fellows that were over there, and they did the music for us. I mean, it was a tremendous experience. And then we added other things with it, you know. Part of it, there was just so much. I mean, this huge installation that we had all these people write all of their thoughts when they were doing laundry, and we made this 20 by 20 foot wall hanging that was in there. It was a show that the three of us were extremely proud of, and happy that we had. I mean, it was a huge part of the museum, and it was almost like, wow. It's amazing that we actually had the opportunity to do that. It really was.
Also, such a validation for the work, for your work, you know, for all the years that you were
out of commission. Like, it's so gratifying to see that you were able to find the three of you, these two other women who went through what you went through and experienced what you went through, and you're showing other generations and current artists, you could still be an artist.
Right.
You still have validation. You could have children and still be valid.
Yes.
It's important. Yes. It's an important conversation to have.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, it was an incredible show. I remember there was another piece that I'm remembering. But the dinner table was definitely, that came to my mind right away. But there was another piece.
The welcome sign, maybe?
Probably, yeah. That was really good.
That was sort of almost an afterthought. Like we needed something to draw people in, and it was a welcome mat that we had. It was huge.
It was huge.
And we did a neon, and it's WLCM, and the title of it was "Too Busy for Vowels." So it was sort of this play on how we're all doing this now, and plus the fact that when you're juggling careers and children and everything else that you're trying to juggle in your life, and it's only getting more complex. I mean, even if I think of my life 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, I was so busy, but if I were to put myself doing those same things today, it would be even busier, just because all of these electronics are taking up so much damn time that I'm not quite sure what's going on. I mean, we have to adapt to this. This is the way it is. I don't think they're good or bad or indifferent. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. It takes time.
It takes so much time.
Yeah.
And all this friggin' social networking stuff is just like, and we have to do this now too.
Can we just
who the hell has time for all this? It's like I have to sit down with my phone and but
at least
what
you
if I don't do it?
Card now, so you don't have to go shopping if you don't want to.
That's true. It's true.
Or like an Uber to drive your children around.
It's true. I did do all my holiday shopping online, I have to say.
Yeah.
I did do it all online. I haven't gone to one store because I can't stand crowds. I haven't gone to one store.
But it's true. It's true.
I'm curious to know, we're good on time? Okay, good. I'm more or less, because you did mention art school, but in your, I guess, high school experience, but also like when you were small, were you more gravitating towards paint or drawing, or did you just dabble in both? And who put that pencil or paint in your hand? Or do you?
The drawing always came most natural. It always has, it still does. It's what I enjoy the most. It's what I feel I'm the most competent in. Painting is it's so difficult for me. It always has been. And I paint and I paint and I paint. I've been painting for so many years, but that painting is very hard. When I draw, I can draw really well, and I've been drawing well since I was in the second grade, I think.
Is that when you looked at yourself and you're like, oh yes, I'm good? Or is it? I would be like, in the school, I was like, it's so embarrassing. I was the class artist. So I still remember, was it second, maybe it was fourth grade, I had to do these larger than life portraits of Orville and Wilbur Wright. The Wright brothers, the airplane guys. And I worked on that. I remember I didn't even have to sit in the classroom. I got into the back of the classroom, and they were huge because it was for a play that was going on. So that was my first experience with large scale portraits.
And you were commissioned to do it.
I didn't even have to do arithmetic. Just put her in the back and let her draw. She'll be fine. She can't do math anyway. So that was the beginning. And from that point on, I was always doing that. I was just always doing that. I remember going into high school, and it was just, they had to give me harder things to do because I could replicate anything. First of all, it's like, don't give her leaves. She can do all that. You've got to go into something a little bit different. And then it did. I've always loved collage, love, and I still do a lot of collage. And I incorporate the drawing, the painting, and stuff in the collage. The painting has always been difficult for me. And I got my degrees in fine arts, so you have to paint.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was there for. So I was painting, and I love to paint, but it's
that's something you have to work at. It wasn't as natural as a drawing. Yeah.
It doesn't come well. I don't know if it comes. It seems to come somewhat naturally, but it is just always difficult because I'm always challenging myself, and it's always. I can't even describe it. It's just always a difficult task. When I get into a painting and I paint it over and over and over, layers and layers and layers and layers, because I just can't ever seem to get it where I want it to be.
Demanding of yourself, yeah.
and I'm always thinking the next one's going to be better.
Such an artist thing. It's like, oh,
but it's so
I'll
interesting.
get you next time.
Yeah.
Next time,
How some media or some materials come so natural. Like I feel like drawing is like the absolute worst medium for me, because it's like, but I was the exact opposite, and I've told the story before. I was like in elementary school, I had my drawing teacher rip up my drawing in front of the class.
Yeah. She shared with us.
That's so
and it was like, that is something that branded me, and I was like, drawing is the most difficult thing for me. And I just looked at the drawings that I made in art school. I was like, those are awesome. Some of them are really good. And I could never see that. When I was doing it, I was always giving myself the hardest time to do that. Yeah, and now I look at it and I'm like, I'm still thinking that I'm like, I can't draw for shit, But when I look back, I finally see, oh wow, those are actually not bad. Yeah. But that's, with me, it's always like that. I have to look back, and then I kind of can appreciate what I do in the moment.
Isn't it funny when you look back at stuff that you did when you were young?
You can appreciate it more?
Well, first of all, when I was young, I thought it was the shit. I mean, I just thought I was.
You're like,
I was like, oh, I'm so good.
Oh, really?
Until I finally got to the point where I realized, you're really not so good. And then that took a little while. You graduate at the top of your class and everything, and you're the class artist.
But then when you get to compete with other people.
Well, then I started saying, wow, I mean, they're really good. Like, I'm really not that good. And then I was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, even now, like, I think I'm so much better now than I was then. But not really. When I look back at some of the work I did in college, and I go, oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
Right?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that happens to me too. That is like, and
I think,
like,
oh my God, after all these years, I've got to be better. I mean, what the heck am I doing?
It's just like this carefreeness in college also, and because you're so inspired by everything that's around you. And I don't think that situation really ever comes back. That you're just so immersed in that is your job, that is what you're gonna do. It's like everyone else around you is doing the same thing, and you can do whatever. Like I experienced that whatever without, and I just didn't know any better. So I was just doing whatever the hell I wanted to do.
Well, that's where I think maybe we're all trying to just, I mean, I know I'm always trying to keep that freshness, and that aliveness, and that just that desire and passion for just doing it, and not worrying about necessarily how it comes out or what people will think. Just doing it. And that's sort of funny. Now that I'm alone in my studio, I feel much freer to do that recently because I'm really isolated over there, and I just do whatever the hell I want. And if it doesn't come out, I don't really care.
Exactly.
I just look at it like, I'll just rip it up,
On
or I'll keep
next,
it, or I'll move it. And the studio's so big that
you could
just walk away from it.
I just walk away
and come
and
back
just leave it
whenever.
over there. I won't look at it for a while.
Well, I guess before Maria asks her question, I want to say, are there any upcoming projects or exhibits you'd like to share with us, or things you're excited about within your new studio, or things that are going on?
What's coming up? I didn't bring this up. I went through an illness this year that really put me out of commission for about 4 or 5 months. So I took a little bit of a reprieve, and really sort of, it was a bit of a life-changing event, really. And I started looking at things a little bit differently, although I was curious as to how it would actually change me, and sort of waiting for these epiphanies to happen or something, which haven't really happened, other than the fact that I know what it is that I'm doing, and I feel comfortable doing it. I don't feel this need to rush around quite as much as I was before. I feel I do have this need to work a lot in my studio, but I was always worrying about the next show, the next this, the next that, and what's coming next. I didn't want to, oh God, I didn't want to just disappear out there somehow in the universe. I'm not concerned about that anymore. I have shows. I've been very lucky that shows come to me, and they're not necessarily in the MoMA or anything, but things always do come to me. I have really this need to remind myself to not swim upstream. I really do not believe in that. And I think through this illness, and I'm doing a lot of meditating and stuff after it, that it just verifies that feeling of just keeping myself grounded in my work. I have people coming. I know there's a couple more shows coming up. There's something going on at the Art and Culture Center.
The Exposed fundraiser,
that,
probably.
And there's another show that supposedly I'm supposed to be in or something. I don't know what's coming. I don't have any big shows coming up next. I kind of just got by Basel here. But something usually shows up, which is, I've been lucky that way.
But studio time and refocusing on you and staying grounded, I think, is important.
I do. I'm very excited about, since I've gotten back into the studio, I start where I need to start, which is the drawing and the painting. I always start with drawing and painting. But I do have some I'm just about ready to start some new installation work, which I'm very, very excited about. It's very large. And I thought, I don't know how I'll do this by myself. But of course I have George. And then out of nowhere, and this is my life, out of nowhere, it's sort of like, I don't know, it was sprinkling fairy dust on me.
But thank you.
I don't know what it is. But a young woman called me up who was helping her husband, who was helping me do this mural on my building. And she said, I would love to work with you. And I'm not looking for a job, but I would just love to work with you. Can I work with you? Do you have anything coming up that I can help you with? And I said, I do. Let's talk in January after the holidays. And then I will have some extra help there because these pieces will be large. And I may need some help to move them around a little bit and stuff.
Wonderful.
Well, we're excited to see what they look like. And Maria has her final question before she tells me to be quiet.
Final question.
Okay.
You've been sitting in a magical rocking chair all this time, and it grants you 3 wishes.
Ooh.
You can wish for anything, but you have to say it out loud for it to come true.
Okay.
So, what are your 3 wishes for the rocking chair?
Oh boy. You have to give me just a minute
Found the question.
Yes, we're like, what question will catch her?
Question. Okay, the first question that it would, of course, I have to say, the most important pieces of my life are my family. So I have children, and I have grandchildren, and I have sisters, and I unfortunately just lost my brother this year. But I have wonderful people that I love in my life. And the main and most important thing that I can think of is that we can all remain happy and healthy for many years. Because there's not, that is what is the most important, the nucleus of who I am as a person. If I could spread that out into then my friendships of people that I love, it is, we all go through heartache and we go through loss and we go through illness, but if we could just hold on and appreciate that wonderful, wonderful feeling of belonging and love with each other, that is what I would wish. If I could just make that last for as long as possible, that would be my first wish.
I love that.
The second wish is that I keep my own self into perspective. And not go too far this way or that way, or that I'm not egotistical or self-involved, and that I keep myself grounded and do what my heart tells me to do. And that is just to be an artist and to enjoy it and challenge myself and continue doing it until the day I die. So that is my second wish. If that could come true, that would be wonderful. Now we're at 3. Let's see. What could be the third?
Those are so eloquent wishes. I
know, they're so well said.
Really
Oh my God. What could be the third wish? This sounds really strange, but that my husband and I live the same amount of time together and maybe go together.
Aw, I can't even. That's beautiful. We love you, George. We miss you. No, that's great.
Yeah, so that's sort of, I don't know, life is, I'm old already. Well, not that old, I guess. Young in spirit, but, I'm not that young anymore. So you do start thinking of things like that, especially after you go through things and you lose people and stuff. That's what's most important. I mean, making the art is for me, is a reflection of all of those things. Those are the things, it's, lots of times people say, oh, your work is so dark. And I don't know if it's dark. It's just that I look at those parts of our lives and say, it's okay.
And they exist.
They exist, and that is part of life. If we could get through life and not have that, I guess it would be, those are the things I'm wishing for. But come on,
reality.
It's not the reality of it. Yeah. So I like looking at, you look at those difficult times, those dark times, and you think, wow, without them, I wouldn't appreciate all this other stuff. I was driving here today just looking at I was trying to stay in my lane, looking at the beautiful sky down here.
Oh, gorgeous.
Nothing like the sky. Nothing like the sky in Miami.
So painterly. It's
the
like
light was amazing.
Every sunset is just like better than a Monet. Sorry, Monet. Rest in peace. But just so beautiful.
Yeah, he never made it to Miami.
He never made it to Miami.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for coming.
Seriously, thank you for sitting down with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for
it was wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel as if I'm quite the talker.
No, it was perfect.
Just perfect. And thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Maria Teresa. And
thanks to our listeners for checking in again.
For volume 36. Wow.
For our volume 36. And we are going to be back next week with a new volume of Rocking Chair Sessions.
Yes. Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys. Thank you.